Okay, so I want to change or control the H1 element by using this style sheet. In my HTML page, I have added the link that says, look, this HTML page, the way it's going to look is going to be determined by the style sheet here. And that style sheet is located within my folder. So here's my style sheet. Here are my HTML pages, and this is going to look relative to itself. That means inside the same folder. It's going to go look, and there it is. We're going to make sure that each one of our pages, this page is going to be looking at this source, page 2 is going to be looking at that source, page 1 is going to be looking at that source. If we made anything else, we'd all want them to be looking at that source so that we can modify every single page at once. So let's demonstrate that. So the H1 element is what I want to select. So any H1 element needs to have whatever properties I give it inside these curly braces. Well, in order to just test this out and to make sure that it's working, I just start by changing the color. And I change the color to something crazy obvious so that it's not hard to see. And then I know it's working or not. And if it isn't working, then I'll go back and check my link and make sure it's right, or make sure something's not messed up. I didn't spell something wrong or do the wrong syntax. So here's the syntax, just to go over it again. The selector's name. There are lots and lots of selectors. You're going to be learning about them as we go. But the one we're worried about is called H1. You're going to then contain the attributes or the values for the H1 elements within my opening and my closing curly brackets. The space in between is where you're going to write the code. Now, I always indent. So we're going to indent everything, just like we indent our code over here to make sure everything lines up right and everything looks really good. We're going to indent the code here. I also have comments. If I want to have a comment, I have a / and an asterisk, and I put my comments in there, and then I close it up with this asterisk / So it's like it's the mirror image of the closer. All right, so let's just look at the basic elements. When I want to change the text color of H1, I simply say color. I don't say text color or font color or word color or letter color. I just say color. So I put the word color in. Since we're writing code, we are going to have to use terminating codes, symbols, and that sort of stuff. So we're going to say color. Then we're going to basically say, okay, I put in a colon, and then I'm going to say, what is the value for the color? Now, when we do color on the web, we usually use what's called a hexadecimal value, and that's usually a 6-digit number. You can look up hexadecimal color charts, and I use these all the time. I have my own favorite color charts. I always say hexadecimal color charts, and I use this one a lot. And when you do that, you can see the color block, but then the 6-digit number. Now, it's sometimes made up of letters. So white can be 6 Fs. Now, if it's the same letter repeated like this, C, 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 you can actually truncate it to just the 3 letters. So F, F, F. Actually, the correct code would be hashtag or the pound symbol F, 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 or hashtag FC0. So for instance, if I wanted to take one of these numbers, and we'll do that in just a second, but first I want to do it in the most simplest way possible. And that is, I could just say red. Now, not every color in the world is going to show up, but for now, let's just start with something obvious. Notice I have my H1, I have my closing and my opening and closing curly braces here. I have my the attribute I'm looking for, the color, and the value of red. I'm going to save that, Control Save. Now again, it's associated with this, so I'm going to go to my web page that I'm looking at, which I have here. And when I refresh this page, the H1 element should be colored. Now, if I go to other pages, and if there is an H1 element, oh, I don't have that code associated with this yet. So these pages haven't changed because I haven't associated the link to the CSS yet. But we'll get to that in a second. So another example, let's go down and look at the code for an H2 element. Let's first make sure it's H2. I have an H1 here and I have an H2 there. This is where we'll look at just using a simple hexadecimal value. So here's H1. We can add lots and lots of things. I'm just going to keep it nice and close and concise. You can see this. I'm going to start another one. Give myself a little bit of white space. I'm going to put in my, what is it that I'm selecting? I always put in my opening and my closing curly brace just so I don't forget. I'm going to tab over a little bit to indent, 1, 2, and then I'm going to color. Now the difference between color here and the one up above is that I'm going to use a hexadecimal value. Hexadecimal values always start with a hashtag. And so I'm going to go to my hexadecimal table. I'm going to pick a color, something that you can see, a variation. Well, let's just do like a green or something like that. And so I'll do like one of these darker greens. It's 66CC33. All right. So I've got 66CC33. And I'm going to terminate that. So here's the whole thing. I'm looking for color change. What is the color change? The color change is going to be this hexadecimal value. And this means I'm done with that statement. I'm going to file. I'm going to save. I'm going to go back. I'm going to hit F5 and refresh. Now all of those tags now have changed. Okay? Now let's go and let's talk about something else. So there in the notes, you're going to be looking at lots and lots and lots of ways to style lots of attributes. So in class, you're going to be adding, for instance, we can choose different types of fonts. We can choose the fonts that are going to be associated with the body, the H1 elements, the paragraphs, the image. And so here are all the different properties that we can choose from. Now, these aren't all of them, but these are just some basic ones. We can do an overall font family. We can define margins. We can define background colors. That's kind of a fun one. Look, there's a hexadecimal value here. So let's say we wanted to do the background color for the whole body. Let's just use that for example. Control copy it. Let's just see what happens for the body. You'll be doing this in your own. So let's look in, when we look and talk about the body, the whole content of the web page is the body. So it's basically the paper behind everything. Another tip, whenever you add your CSS, I like to put it in in alphabetical order so I can find things first. So the body I would put up first because the body is a B, so it would be above H1 and H2. So I have my opening curly brace, my closing curly brace. Now whatever I want to put in here, I'm going to tab over, 1, 2, giving myself some room. Now when we do background color, the syntax is going to be background hyphen color. So I'm going to say background. All right, then I'm going to put in my colon, and then I'm going to choose the color. And I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to terminate that. Now make sure I have 6 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Background color, I'm going to save, Control save, or hit save. And when I go back to my web page, I'm going to refresh, make sure I'm on the right page. Now I have that gray, kind of greenish background color. I could change that to whatever I wanted. If we want to change the typeface, let's say we don't want this sans serif this serif typeface, we will do that as well. So anything within the body, we can change the type. So we'll go back to my notes here, and we're going to use a font family. And we're going to use the font family described in the notes. Let's see if I have it. See if I have it here. Let's just go ahead and use this one. Table, font family, Tahoma, Helvetica, Sans Serif. Copy. So it's going to choose one, and then if that one's not there, use this one. If that one's not there, then you choose a generic. So let's just see what happens. So font family is F. It's going to be after background, and I've alphabetized the elements within my CSS2. All right, so I hit save, file, save. I'm going to go to my page. I'm going to look at my code because these are serifs. They have this little, if you look at the little letters, have the little, basically it's kind of like a line extension across the bottom to help it kind of flow and create a natural line along the bottom of the page. If I refresh my page now, notice that it changes to a sans serif, meaning no serif. So there's no, all the letters have a nice square edge instead of a curved line that kind of helps lead the eye along a page. So notice that the page instantly has changed. I've got a sans serif font type for my whole document. I could do it just for one thing if I wanted to. So let's say we didn't want it to be for the whole document. Let's say we just wanted it to be for the paragraphs. So we could do that. We could experiment. This is where the experimentation comes in. And it's kind of fun because let's say that I wanted to test this. Say, what would it look like without this? I could put this in my comment. So I could comment that out. And if I commented that out, save, and refresh my page, I go back to the way it was. So I can kind of test this. I'm going to go back and say, look, instead of having it here, I'm going to put it only on paragraphs. So just real quick, Control Copy. I'm going to put in the P for paragraph. I'm going to open and close brackets. I'm going to tab over a couple steps, hit Control Save, see what happens. Now, notice that only the paragraph elements have been changed. Let's say we wanted to put a color behind our paragraphs. Real quick, I can just go into my CSS. Let's say I wanted to put in the paragraph, I put in a background color. Now, this gets kind of garish and it isn't very pretty, but it's just to show you how this stuff works. So background color, all right, and if I put in FFF, this would be white. This should be white. Make sure I've got everything. Control Save, go back. And if I do that, it'll just be white behind the paragraphs. Okay, I can adjust the widths and the heights of the paragraphs. Let's say a paragraph can be, let's just see, I like to experiment. So paragraph, I'm going to add some padding to it. So padding is going to add pixels of space within the box. So notice how all the text lines up with the edge of the box right here. Well, I want to give some padding. And so padding, P-A-D-I-N-G. And if I just say, let's say, I'm just something crazy. I'll say 25 pixels, and I have to specify whether I want pixel or not. I'll move this up so you can see that. 25 pixels. Control Save, Control Refresh. This gives me 25 pixels on every edge of that box. This is the bounding box. The white isn't the bounding box. So there's 25 pixels from here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here. So that actually makes that box bigger. I don't want that much, but I wanted you to see that significant change. And I can also specify if I want top, right, bottom, or left. And that's how when you add the code, if you were to say padding 5, 2, 1, 7, and in that order it would be top, right, so it's clockwise, top, right, bottom left. So let's just see.